A young man working at a funeral home, driven by perverse impulses upon seeing the strikingly beautiful corpse of a recently deceased woman, committed an unlawful act in the morgue. To his utter horror, during the assault, the corpse suddenly came back to life. The resurrected woman terrified him so thoroughly that he fled in panic, screaming madly, without even pulling up his pants. Could the dead truly revive? What lies behind this bizarre case of a corpse returning to life? One afternoon in 2012, the body of a young woman named Yuan was delivered to a funeral home. She was only in her 20s, with striking beauty. Yuan had been a dance teacher, instructing children in dance. The day before her death, she collapsed on her way home from work due to extreme exhaustion. A passerby found her and called an ambulance, but by the time paramedics arrived, she showed no vital signs. Despite doctors' desperate efforts, they could not revive her. After confirming her death, the hospital issued a death certificate and notified her parents. When they arrived, they were shattered to see their once healthy daughter reduced to a cold, lifeless body. The doctors explained that Yuan had died from sudden cardiac arrest caused by overwork. The shock of losing their child overwhelmed her mother, who fainted on the spot. Her father, though devastated, resolved to handle the funeral arrangements swiftly to let his daughter rest in peace. Since the family was not local, Yuan had been working in the city. They decided to cremate her and take her ashes back to their hometown for burial. Unsure of where to go, they accepted a doctor's recommendation for a funeral home that partnered with the hospital. Yuan's mother, knowing her daughter's love for beauty and meticulous care for her appearance, insisted she be dressed in her favorite elegant dress and given makeup before cremation. These preparations delayed the cremation until the following afternoon, leaving her body temporarily stored in the morgue. It was during this waiting period that an unimaginable event happened. Morgues are typically secure, but criminals sometimes target them to steal organs from the deceased. This funeral home had previously dealt with such incidents, so nightly patrols were conducted to check. That night, the patrol duty fell to Li Qiong, a man in his 20s. His task was to lift the white shrouds covering the bodies and ensure no organs were missing. Why would a young man like Li Qiong work in a funeral home? After graduating from an unremarkable university with no specialized skills or experience, he faced constant rejection in his job search. Seeing peers succeed while he remained unemployed, he attempted civil service exams but failed. Desperate, he learned of a job opening at a funeral home, a position with stable government benefits, decent pay, and minimal competition due to its morbid nature. Despite reservations, Li Qiong applied and was hired due to lack of applicants. While the job provided financial stability, it doomed his personal life. Potential romantic partners recoiled upon learning his workplace. With few female colleagues, he remained single. Having worked there for years, Li Qiong thought he was numb to the sight of corpses. But when he lifted the shroud covering Yuan's face that night, he froze. He had never seen such a beautiful face. In a moment of depraved impulse, fueled by repressed desires and inexperience with women, he succumbed to his darkest urges. Believing himself alone, he committed the unlawful act. Minutes later, as he finished and began dressing, a hoarse female voice rasped behind him, "What are you doing?" Terrified, Li Qiong turned to see Yuan's corpse staring back. Convinced his actions had angered the heavens and resurrected her, he fled the morgue, pants around his ankles, screaming, "The dead is alive! Help!" Other staff dismissed his cries as hallucinations, until they saw Yuan, pale and wrapped in a shroud, stumbling out behind him, shouting, "Call the police!" Disoriented but aware she had been assaulted, Yuan found the office and dialed the police to report the crime. Police arrived and split into two teams. One rushed Yuan to the hospital, while the other arrested Li Qiong. At the hospital, experts discovered Yuan had been in a state of apparent death, a rare condition where vital signs are undetectable, mimicking true death. Common in nature, humans can enter this state due to severe trauma, causing deep unconsciousness and temporary loss of life signs. The hospital had initially declared her dead because her brain was oxygen deprived, and her heartbeat and pulse were nearly absent. Standard tests failed to detect life. Her revival? Yuan, still confused, only recalled collapsing on the street. After recovering, police explained the full story. When asked if she wished to press charges, Yuan declined. With her parents urging, She even wrote Lee Cheong a letter of forgiveness. However, prosecutors charged Lee Cheong with desecration of a corpse, according to the Criminal Law Article 302. In court, Lee Cheong admitted to violating the corpse but denied criminal assault, arguing she was dead, it wasn't assault. The judge believed that Yuan was legally alive. Thus, Lee Cheong's actions constituted criminal assault under Criminal Law Article 236. But Lee Cheong's defense lawyer argued that, in this case, the hospital had already issued a death certificate, and Yuan was indeed in a state of death when she was brought in. This means that the subject of Lee Cheong's criminal actions at the time was a corpse. Moreover, Lee Cheong had not anticipated that Yuan would come back to life, so he had no subjective intention of violating her. This clearly did not constitute criminal assault, but rather, the desecration of a corpse, and he should be sentenced accordingly for the crime of desecrating a corpse. After making this argument, Lee Cheong's defense lawyer added another point. He said that Yuan woke up because of Lee Cheong's actions, meaning Lee Cheong actually played a role in saving her life. Furthermore, Yuan and her family had already issued a letter of understanding to Lee Cheong, so he should not be convicted of criminal assault. After hearing the defense lawyer's arguments, the judge decided to adjourn the court temporarily. When the court reconvened, the judge delivered the verdict. Lee Cheong had the subjective criminal motive of desecrating a corpse and objectively, to satisfy his own perverted desires, he did carry out the act of violation. Therefore, Lee Cheong violated the Criminal Law Article 302, which defines the crime of desecrating a corpse. However, Lee Cheong's actions objectively led to Yuan's awakening, thereby preventing her from being sent to the crematorium and burned to death. This, to some extent, protected Yuan's right to life, so the sentence could be appropriately reduced based on this circumstance. In the end, Lee Cheong was sentenced to 2 years in prison for the crime of desecrating a corpse. This bizarre case of a dead person coming back to life attracted widespread attention from netizens. After the court's verdict was announced, it sparked even more heated discussions. Netizens shared their opinions on the court's ruling. Some argued that in this case, Lee Cheong did not know Yuan would wake up, and he did not coerce her, so Lee Cheong had no intention of violating her. Moreover, it was because of Lee Cheong's actions that Yuan woke up, meaning Lee Cheong's actions were life-saving. He should be acquitted. However, more netizens believed that subjectively, Lee Cheong was violating a female corpse. It could be determined that he had criminal intent. Guilt is guilt, and he should face the corresponding punishment. Otherwise, the law would become meaningless. Moreover, from a moral standpoint, Lee Cheong's desecration of the corpse was a disrespect to the deceased, so he must be severely punished. In this case, although it was because of Lee Cheong that Yuan came back to life, Lee Cheong's subjective intent was to vent his desires on a corpse, not to save anyone. Therefore, Lee Cheong was still guilty and should be sentenced. Otherwise, the law would become a mere piece of paper. Furthermore, Lee Cheong's actions had already desecrated the corpse. From this point, Lee Cheong also committed the crime of desecrating a corpse. He should take responsibility for his actions. Regardless of the reason, no one should violate the last bit of dignity of the deceased. The dead are gone and their final dignity should be preserved. So, what are your thoughts on this case? Feel free to share your opinions. That's all for now. If you enjoyed this case, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow Case Diaries. There are plenty more cases coming your way. Got thoughts on today's story? Drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. See you in the next one.